What's up, everybody? What's up, MGTOW? So today I'd like to talk about the game, and not so much game like pickup artists, like picking up women, but more trying to give a broad stroke analogy of what it's like for men in, I guess, now the 21st century and parts of the latter 20th century. Now, one of the things that I see in MGTOW is that it's hard to explain for many reasons. A lot of the scientific and biological theories take some level of understanding of science, and the economic theories take some level of understanding of economics, the social theories, some level of social understanding. But also, the parable of the three blind men and the elephant does come to mind when looking at MGTOW, MGTOW circles, and presenters, and everybody within the MGTOW sphere. Because how gynocentrism is affecting men is affecting each man differently in his own unique way, although there are some broad generalizations that you can make. Like, for example, the kind of wealthier upper guys are facing more in the way of financial dangers and financial stress, financial troubles. While they might find it easy to find a woman or a mate or whatever, there's still a high level of danger of them losing all their assets or half, whatever, and social status, things like that. Then you've got the low class guys, I guess, the poor and the ugly, and those guys, they're kind of feeling it on a more physical level. They just can't get their basic physical needs met. They're stuck way down at the bottom of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And then you've got the middle class guys, and they're kind of experiencing a kind of spiritual, or I guess you could say existential kind of problem from gynocentrism, because these middle class guys, they probably could find a woman, and they probably could even find a wife, but can they find love, whatever you want to define that as? And it's seemingly more difficult for a middle class guy to find that quote unquote love, the respect, the reciprocity, the adulation from the woman, because most women now are middle class, so there's not really a level of respect derived from being middle class. So unless you're the high-end wealthy elite, you can't really get respect from women. And if you're low-end, ugly, poor, whatever, you can't get any physical action from women. And the middle class guys are just kind of stuck in limbo. They can touch it, they can see it, they can feel it, but it's not quite real. So back to the game and the analogy. I guess we could put it into sports terms since we're talking about the game. And we can look at, say we had two professional football teams. And you can think of these two professional football teams as just men, and the way that men used to operate in the world before the Industrial Revolution and before all these new things, birth control and no-fault divorce, and basically everything defined as fourth wave feminism. And now, while a lot of people do define it as fourth wave feminism, I'm not sure that's the label I would put on it. I would more just call it complete insanity. But we'll call it fourth wave feminism for now. So you've got these men on the field, and they're playing football by the rules for the most part. Each team wins some, they lose some. They've got good players, they've got some players on the bench. Everybody, for the most part, is playing by the rules. They're playing football. Some guys win, some guys lose sometimes, but everybody knows the rules. Everybody knows, when you get into the end zone, that's 6 points, and then when you kick a field goal, that's 1 point. And you got to tackle the guy, and you can't, no holding, and all the rules of football. Everybody knows the rules. They're playing by the rules. Then one day, they're getting ready for the game. They're in the locker room. The coach is giving them a pep talk and is like, well, today's game is going to be a little different because on the other team, some of the players are going to have basketball players now. So now they're out on the field, and one team is all football players, and the other team has got 3 basketball players on it, and the rest are football players. And the coach is telling you, well, you know, the thing with the basketball players is you can't touch the basketball players. So they're playing by the rules of basketball, but you still have to play by the rules of football, so you're not allowed to tackle them or touch them in any way. And in fact, if you touch or try to tackle one of the football players, you'll be sued and you'll be kicked off the football team, and you'll just have your reputation destroyed just by touching one of the football players, one of the basketball players, just by accident. So you're sitting there thinking, well, it's going to be really hard to tackle these guys if I can't touch them. So of course, as the game progresses, the basketball players, all they have to do is get a hold of the ball and just walk down the field to the end zone because nobody on the opposing team is allowed to tackle them. On top of that, some of the players from the other team, some of their star players, now have to sit out of the game, and a few of them even got fired from the team because they don't need them anymore. They've got basketball players that can just walk up and down the field and score points without being tackled. So why do they need the football players anymore? So now you've got 50% representation of basketball players and football players on the football team, and the other football team doesn't know what to do. They're like, we can't tackle them, we can't run, we can't. They're just sitting there wondering what they could do with these basketball players just walking up and down the field because nobody can tackle them. Then on top of all that, and you're trying to play this game and you're trying to win with the basketball players walking up and down the field and nobody can tackle them. On top of all that, all a basketball player has to do is take a knee and then say somebody's name that's on a football team. And not only do they get extra points, but that person gets kicked out of the football league. And not only that, the person doesn't even have to be in the same game as them. So a basketball player can go down, take a knee, and then they could say, oh, so-and-so tackled me. But that guy's playing a game in a completely different state, in a completely different stadium, and he's not even on the team that you're playing against. But then they'll, oh, well, I guess they said that he tackled him. And then all of a sudden they go and arrest the guy that's playing at another game in another state, in another stadium, and they arrest him for tackling the basketball player. And now his career is over because obviously tackling a basketball player is the worst thing you could ever do in your life. Even if you didn't tackle a basketball player, the basketball player just said that you tackled him. So you can kind of see the picture that I'm painting here with a broad stroke and kind of see how things could be a little confusing for men or the football players when they're trying to play the game by the old rules where they were playing one football team against another football team, but now you've got all these basketball players on the court or on the field that you can't tackle, and they can just accuse you of tackling them, and then you get kicked off the football team just for the accusation of them saying that they tackled you. Now, just to top all of this off, the other team's going to bring out a few ping pong ball players. Now, you're wondering, why would they bring out ping pong players? Well, it's really confusing because the ping pong players are wearing football uniforms, but they're ping pong players, so you still can't tackle them. And on top of it, you have to hit their balls with your paddle, otherwise you're pongophobic. So now, not on top of having to try to score against the basketball players that you can't touch, now you've also got to hit people's balls with your paddle, otherwise you're pongophobic, and that can also get you kicked off the team. Because you see, if you're pongophobic, meaning you don't want to rub your stick or your paddle on somebody else's balls, even though they're dressed like a football player, somehow you're in the wrong, and you lose points for that, and you might even get kicked off the football team. So, with all that said, it's just kind of a way to look at the situation that men are in without talking about the situation that men are in, because obviously people don't care about the situation that men are in. I mean, people just look at it like, oh, well, that's life. Men are getting screwed over. Ha ha ha. That's how life is, right? That it's been like that forever. Let's change everything for the basketball players and then make everything twice as hard for the football players, and then complain to the football players when they can't win. So that's all I got for this one. Have a good day and go MGTOW.